a functional medicine health coach that is a SIBO specialist, Angela Forrest. Angela is the founder of Robust Health Advocacy, helping women and everyone get access to health advocacy, something that I think that we need to address more of. But this conversation will be solely about SIBO. So, Angela, let's start with the beginning. What is SIBO?
Yeah, so thank you, Samuel. Thank you for this opportunity to talk about such an important, impactful condition many people have, but they might not know it. Just a brief kind of summary of robust health advocacy. In essence, I work with people suffering from chronic health conditions to provide holistic, comprehensive coaching in the areas of gut health, hormonal balancing, stress management and trauma release, as well as personal health advocacy. So I cover a lot of core foundational areas. SIBO, what is SIBO? It stands for small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And in a nutshell, SIBO is an abnormal increase of bacteria in the small intestine. Normally, the large intestine is the part of the digestive system that has the most bacteria because it needs to utilize all of the bacteria to break down the food and convert it into waste. The small intestine, its primary goal is to take the food that you insert into your mouth and pull out the nutrients from that food and make sure those nutrients get into your bloodstream. So there's not as many bacteria involved in that process. However, when you have SIBO, there's an abnormal amount of bacteria in the small intestine. This can lead to symptoms such as bloating, gas, pain, diarrhea, or constipation. And it affects, like I said, I wasn't able to get accurate statistics on this, but I do know a lot of people have it. Some people don't know they have it. And the key thing is that people will get SIBO. They can often get treated for it, get cleared of it, and then it can come right back. This SIBO is a modern lifestyle condition.
That's very interesting. And my first question regarding SIBO is, why do you think that more functional medicine health coaches and practitioners don't specialize in gut health and SIBO? Why do you think that a lot of functional practitioners typically are broad in the issues that they address?
I mean, I can't speak for other functional health practitioners or coaches. I can only speak for myself. And I have had SIBO. I had SIBO for 14 years. It took a toll on me, a big toll on me. I would even go as far as to say that it put me into a life-threatening situation with my health. So I focus on gut health as one of my core areas as a health coach because I know the impact of gut health conditions on people's lives. And the gut is one of the most important, the digestive system is one of the most important organs we have because so many core
until they know that
functional issues happen,
or at least they know what you do.
Our hormones are produced. 70% of our hormones come from our gut. Our gut is the core of our emotional stability. Serotonin is produced in the gut, 90% of serotonin. Our gut controls our metabolism, our blood sugar, our blood pressure. It all comes from the gut. And that's why I focus on working on gut health with patients, many of them of whom have SIBO and other gut, what we call gut dysbiosis. That's the medical term, which means there's an imbalance of the gut bacteria. There's an overgrowth of one kind of bacteria over another. And when you have that imbalance, that dysbiosis, you're going to have immediate symptoms, and then it can turn into more severe, even life-threatening conditions.
That's an interesting thought process, that you're right. Everything does go back to the gut. And the relationship with the gut brain and the physical brain is something that I think that a lot more practitioners should touch on. So diving deeper into SIBO, what are some symptoms?
Yeah, so some of the common symptoms I had mentioned, um, bloating, gas, you might have pain in your digestive tract, constipation. You might have constipation one day, you might have diarrhea the next day. It can go back and forth. Um, there's a lot of other symptoms involved, but those are the primary symptoms basically that people experience. And I should note that SIBO has different causes, different core root causes, right? You have your structural causes, what are the things that are happening in the gut, and then you have your what we call in the functional medicine field root cause. It's a root cause. What is the actual thing that's happening that's causing the gut to not function properly? But yes, I mean, some people with SIBO have diarrhea, and then other people might have constipation. But I've worked with clients who've had one day and the other day. So people are different, but in general, those are the most common symptoms: the abdominal discomfort, the bloating. You just blow up like a balloon, really. I mean, I know how I was. I just had constant bloating all the time. And I'll tell you another symptom that I don't usually see on the list, but I had it. It was pretty bad. The quality of my stools was poor. When I say quality, I'm talking about the smell of my stools was off. The look of the stools was off. I had mucus just my stools were wrapped in mucus. That is a very overt sign of massive inflammation happening. And that is what SIBO can contribute to, massive inflammation in your body.
Wow. It's interesting because when I think about SIBO, it all comes back to gut health and it all comes back to what we eat. And something that's interesting about you regarding SIBO is that you implement an elemental diet in the proper diagnosing of SIBO. Can you touch a little bit more on the elemental diet?
Yeah. So I'm going to let you know, I always listen to the patient, right? I'm a holistic coach, so I want to know where you've been, who you've seen as far as practitioners, what are the treatments you've had before, and then from there I'll make a decision about the type of treatment that is best for you based on your history, your lifestyle, your current situation with your diet, movement, exercise, your stress level, which is a huge factor in developing SIBO and maintaining it. I look at all of those things. This is what I say about the elemental diet. I will recommend the elemental diet under a couple of different circumstances after I do this kind of overall extensive assessment. I will recommend it for people who have already gone through, because the typical standard treatment, I should let you know, for SIBO is doing the FODMAP diet. And you can look it up, Samuel, you're really good at that. FODMAP, it is a reduction in eating certain fermentable carbohydrates, which is part of the FODMAP acronym. That is a common initial treatment, and then people will typically stay on that. Usually you should only stay on it for about 4 weeks. The other thing that will be often prescribed is antibiotics. So the most common antibiotic used to treat SIBO is called rifaximin, and that is usually given to people at least 1 or 2 rounds. So I will talk to the client if they've already been on the FODMAP diet, they're on the FODMAP diet, they've gone through at least 2 rounds of antibiotic treatment, and they still have SIBO, at that point, I will recommend to them that they consider the elemental diet. There's another another kind of group of clientele that I will recommend the elemental diet for. And this is also a group of clients who have had digestive problems for as long as they recall being alive. I have a client now. She has had digestive problems, constipation, severe constipation since at least age 2. To me, that's a lifetime. She's in her 60s. So this is another type of criteria that I will basically look at that person's history, their background. They've had digestive problems for decades. I will say, I think you would benefit from doing what I call a reset on your gut. I call the elemental diet a reset because it is, in essence, a high nutrition liquid diet that people will go on exclusively. So they won't eat solid food for up to 2 weeks minimum. You can do a maximum of 3 weeks. It is high nutrition. Okay. So it's not water. It's not lemon juice. It's not a smoothie. It is a medically prepared powder that you add water to, and you turn it into this liquid, and you drink it for a minimum of 2 weeks with no solid food. The goal of the elemental diet is to do a couple of things related to SIBO. SIBO, again, likes to eat. The bacteria likes to feast on certain types of foods, which is why the FODMAP diet is recommended. The FODMAP diet eliminates or, has people taper off these foods, these fermentable carbohydrates, such as lentils and beans, wheat and rye, milk and ice cream, the dairies, the sweeteners, agave, high fructose corn syrup, sorbitol, xylitol, vegetables like onions and garlic, cauliflower, cabbage, and artichokes. Fruits, SIBO, the bacteria loves apples and pears, peaches and plums and apricots, and processed fruit as well, because that's high in sugar. These are the foods that the SIBO bacteria love to feast on, and they will grow when you give them these foods. So when you go on an elemental diet, you can essentially cut out all of those foods. You cut out all solid foods. It starves the SIBO. The SIBO food supply is cut off when you do a liquid diet. And if you do it for 2 weeks, which is really the minimum, ideally, you will cut off the food supply and the bacteria will go back to its normal levels. I want to emphasize the fact that we are not killing off anything. The digestive system is full of all types of bacteria. E. coli is a normal part of a human digestive system. It is normal for E. coli to live in our digestive systems. It is normal for bacteria, certain, SIBO related bacteria to be in our digestive tract normally. The problem is when the bacteria overgrows and it ends up in the wrong part of our digestive tract. That's the issue. So the elemental diet will shrink those numbers of that bacteria, that SIBO bacteria, down to their regular levels that they should be, and it will remove them from being overabundant in the small intestine so they can be where they need to be and they can be at the volume they need to be. And that's the goal of the elemental diet.
Looking at some of these stats, the primary, or some of this information from AI overview, primary benefits of a liquid diet: arresting the digestive tract, facilitating post-surgical healing, and ensuring hydration during periods of gastrointestinal distress, i.e. SIBO. While some people turn to liquid diets for short-term weight management, their most critical evidence-based applications are strictly medical.
Yes, and
if we go back,
it is strictly medical thing. I've had patients that are like, I don't want to go on an elemental diet. I don't want to lose weight. Ideally, you will lose virtually no weight on an elemental diet because it is so high in nutrients, it's so high in calories, and it has to be that way. You have to have those nutrients or you will die. So I want to be very clear. Elemental diet is not about weight loss. If you're trying to just lose weight, do something else. The elemental diet is to eradicate SIBO and other conditions like SIBO, like IBS. It can help with IBS. It can help with Crohn's disease. It can help with a lot of other conditions to either get them under control or eliminate the condition entirely. It is not about weight loss. This is not a weight loss strategy. You will not lose weight. You don't want to lose weight on an elemental diet. If you're losing weight on an elemental diet, you're not getting enough of the liquid in your body and not enough of the nutrients. That is something that I do monitor with patients. I have them check their weight, their blood pressure, and their blood sugar. Particular patients who, have high blood pressure, have diabetes, I make sure they're monitoring these things every day that they're on the elemental diet, because the amount at which your medications that you're taking could shift and adjust if you're not taking solid food. You could have a greater amount of that medication getting into your bloodstream because you're shifting, from a solid food to a liquid diet. We don't want that. We don't want weight loss on the elemental diet. That's not what it's designed for.
100%. And just to regurgitate, this is not for weight loss. And just to dive a little deeper in the FODMAP foods, you want to avoid anything with fructose, lactose, fructans, galactans, and polyols. But
Yes. I think you might have gotten a little bit frozen there, Samuel. Are you back?
going backwards into SIBO.
Yes.
Let's talk about some of the testing.
Yeah.
So we know your treatment for it, and we have an idea of what it is. We spoke consistently about this idea of don't guess, test. So can you talk about some of the tests associated with SIBO and the common treatments and the rate of recurrence?
Right. So the most common breath tests that are typically done, they're breath tests. And they basically involve you blowing into, you have to go on a little restricted diet for about 24 to 36 hours. Then you blow into a tube multiple times to capture the volume of the SIBO bacteria is tested. So there's tests that look at hydrogen and methane. The reason why they look at hydrogen and methane is because there's different types of SIBO overgrowths. You have your hydrogen dominant SIBO. This is characterized by the hydrogen gas production, that the bacteria is producing that. This is the SIBO that's often linked to diarrhea as a symptom. And then you have your methane dominant SIBO. It's now called IMO, is the common acronym for that. That's characterized by methane gas that the bacteria are producing. This is the one that's often linked to constipation. Then you have the hydrogen sulfide SIBO. This is another variant of SIBO, and this is really linked to that combo I mentioned. You might have diarrhea one day, constipation the next day. It has a very distinct sulfur smell to it. So when you use the bathroom, you might actually be able to smell that. So the tests are aligned with identifying these different elements of gases that the bacteria might be producing. Hydrogen, methane, and or sulfur. I don't know if you wanted me to get into, I don't want to get into brands or things like that, but in a nutshell, it's a breath test. You can do hydrogen based, methane based. They're non-invasive. You have to, again, 24 to 36 hours, go on a somewhat restricted diet before you do the test. Then you're going to drink glucose. You're going to drink lactulose or glucose, and that's going to stimulate the bacteria. They're going to start to feed on that. There's going to be fermentation. That's when you blow into the little device, and it captures the product after the bacteria are feeding. How much do you have of the methane, the hydrogen? It's not perfect, right? There's a couple of other tests. There's something called, I believe it's pronounced jejunal aspirate. It's a culture. It's invasive though. They actually get a fluid sample from your small intestine. And then it's considered a very accurate test, more accurate than the breath test. But for most people, their doctors are going to suggest they do a breath test. You can also detect SIBO through your blood, through blood tests that may detect the nutritional deficiencies that SIBO causes. SIBO eats your nutrients. Remember that I said that SIBO bacteria will overgrow in the small intestine. That is the part of the digestive system that is responsible for where we get our nutrients. The nutrient absorption process occurs in the small intestine. When you have an overgrowth of the SIBO bacteria will take your nutrients from you. So even if you are eating the best diet in the world, the cleanest diet, the best meat, organic meats, organic vegetables, you're eating 3 meals a day, you can still be deficient because the bacteria that's overgrowing that shouldn't be there is taking the nutrients from you. It's not getting into your bloodstream. This is one of the risk factors of having SIBO for years and years and years and years. And that's the situation that I was in after 14 years. I was severely nutritionally deficient, and it was causing severe health impacts for me.
So, with that, how important is monitoring your stool in addressing SIBO? We talked about this a little bit earlier, but can you go a little bit more in depth on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of people looking at their poo. I feel like it's really a crucial element of how to figure out how well you're doing. I can tell you straight up from my own experience, like I mentioned, my stool, I knew that something was very wrong. My stool was covered in mucus. I had massive inflammation. I'm going to be very detailed here. Sorry if anyone's eating. My stool did not smell like human stool. That's all I can say. It did not smell like it came from a human being. It smelled like it came from an animal, like a dog. It smelled like it was a dog stool. When I would use the bathroom, I would literally be like, what is that smell? It does not smell like me. I knew from years of being with my body what my stool smelled like. When I developed SIBO, it changed. It smelled like a dog poo. That was the other thing that just hit me. Your stools, if you have hydrogen, your stools can become loose or watery because of the diarrhea. So that's another key sign. You have diarrhea. The methane, your stools can be hard to pass, painful, because you're constipated. It can be greasy looking because SIBO can also cause malabsorption of other key, I'm trying to think, oils, and the oils is the best word that comes to mind right now. I know it's a particular nutritional element that SIBO disrupts. Bottom line, your stools don't look the way they should. They don't smell the way they should. You might have pain. You know it. Your body's telling you something is wrong with me. So yes, I do encourage people to pay attention to their stools, what they look like, what they smell like. It is every day an opportunity. Every time you go to the bathroom is an opportunity to assess the quality of your health. If you're having bowel movements that are easy, they flow easy, there's no backup, there's no constipation, there's no pain, there's no weird smell. The stools, there's what's known as the Bristol stool test. And I encourage people to Google that, Bristol stool test. This will show you what a good stool looks like and what a not ideal stool looks like. You can Google it and you can every day look and see, how am I doing? But for SIBO people, no. you know that your stool is not right. Thank you for bringing that up. There it is, the stool chart. You don't even have to make a doctor's appointment, right, to do this. You can every day just look at your stool. Look and see what your stool is what's happening there. And how you feel. Do you feel tired? Do you feel do you have pain? That's what it comes down to as well. How are you actually feeling in your body? Oh, you're muted, Samuel.
So we have 7 types, and which of these would indicate I need to test for SIBO?
I would say if you're having type 1, which is the hard lumps, type 2, you're having lumpy, hard. That hardness, that's a sign of constipation and difficult, hard stools. Types 3 and 4 are really the ideal, where you want to be with your stool quality. Type 5, 6, and 7, you're heading into diarrhea. And that is also a sign of SIBO if you have the hydrogen dominant SIBO.
Mm-hmm. So just to reiterate, you want to be around type 3 or 4. And again, this is science. At the end of the day, understanding your body. And the reason why we have practitioners like Angela, or I should say coaches like Angela, come on, is to educate my audience and myself on understanding their bodies, understanding your stool, because again, understanding your stool goes back to understanding your gut, goes back to understanding your brain. And we look at, like we spoke about last week, women that are 15 to 25, the biggest problem that they experience is mental health related. Well, the gut health plays a significant role in the brain. And you work with trauma, so I'd love for you to add on this. But the gut brain, if you're eating poorly, then in conjunction with these and social media, you're more likely to succumb to anxiety, depression, and other mental health related diseases when you have poor mental health or when you have poor physical health relating to your poor mental health. So can you touch a little bit more on the relationship between someone's mental health and the foods they eat, SIBO, and how they can work with mental health diseases as well as SIBO?
Right. I mean, like I said, SIBO is a lifestyle condition. That means that the way that we go throughout our lives can contribute to developing SIBO and maintaining it. When it comes to mental health, our gut, there's the gut brain, what we call the gut brain axis. That is really the communication between our gut and our brain. Our guts, our digestive systems are closely linked to our emotions and closely linked to trauma. There are many people who have traumatic incidents that happen, or even just stress on a daily basis. Think about a stressful event you've experienced recently and how your physical body expressed symptoms of that. Oftentimes we do have, I know for me, butterflies in the stomach pain, stomach tension. Might have a need to immediately go to the bathroom, right? Stools become loose. There is a close, strong connection between what we are feeling emotionally if we're under high amounts of stress and how our digestive system responds to that. And you add that into the mix, you add in the food, the poor quality food. You might be eating a lot of processed food, a lot of fast food. This food typically is very low in nutrition, it's very high in fat, high in sugar, and a lot of it even contains industrial chemicals that have no business being in a human body. You add the food to the mix with the stress, with the trauma, you're headed to SIBO land. You are on the road to SIBO. This is why when I work with clients, I talk to them about their stress. I talk to them about their trauma. Particularly when you think about children who may have experienced trauma, who do not have the cognitive capacity to express their pain, to express their sadness, to express their rage about things that may have happened to them. The body becomes the place where those things are expressed and stored. Trauma, unrecognized, unprocessed trauma, can manifest as severe digestive conditions and symptoms for a lifetime. I've met many people, myself included, who have had chronic severe digestive symptoms that are tied to childhood traumas, childhood experiences that they stored within their bodies, in their guts, and it has led to obstructions and constipation and Crohn's disease and all of these things. So in my work, the way I view the world, the way I work with people, there's no separation between body, mind, and spirit. It is all interconnected. It is how we experience life. And the way I treat people is to treat them as an interconnected whole, not as separate body parts, because it's not how chronic illness is resolved. You don't resolve chronic illness piecemeal. You have to see the person as they are, with their life experiences, with what they're dealing with now, and then look at the physical symptoms, and it's all mixed together.
That's very interesting in the correlation. So, in your opinion, what do traditional health get wrong when it comes to addressing SIBO?
I mean, here's the thing about conventional Western medicine. It is very, very good at treating you if you have an urgent medical need. You fell down, you broke your arm, you're in a car accident, you have been pulled out of a fire, you have a heart attack, you go to the emergency room, they have the triage, they have the immediacy, they're going to treat you, they're going to mend your arm, they're going to give you medication. It's so good about addressing urgent medical issues. It is not so good at treating people who have long-term chronic symptoms that don't fit into a particular criteria easily and can't be easily defined. Now, I will say this, SIBO is obviously on the rise because conventional medicine is starting to acknowledge it and starting to test for it, and they have basically created their own treatment protocols, which is what I went over earlier, the FODMAP diet, followed up with antibiotics or sometimes doing them together. I would say that conventional medicine may fall short in that the follow-up and the length of time that people continue to have SIBO after they've been on the FODMAP diet, after they've gone through 1, 2, 3, or more rounds of antibiotics, that is a problem. People should not be living with SIBO for 10 or 20 years. I lived with it for 14 years. I dealt with a conventional medical system who said, we don't even see anything wrong with you. I had severe symptoms. I described some of the symptoms I had. In addition to having just incredibly obvious signs of inflammation and very abnormal bowel movements, I had symptoms in my blood work that they said were normal, that I researched independently and I found out was not normal. I had oversized red blood cells. That was a sign that my blood cells were not being fed properly. An oversized red blood cell is a blood cell that has not been fed. It's not mature. It's immature. A mature blood cell is small. It's being fed properly. It's being nourished. I was starving. I had nutritional deficiencies, very severe. I had heart palpitations. towards the end of my having SIBO, I was told that my heart valves were not functioning properly. And I realized that was because I had severe B12 deficiencies, severe magnesium and potassium deficiencies. You need magnesium and potassium to send heart signals to your heart to ensure it functions properly. My deficiencies were so severe that my heart valves were not functioning properly anymore. This is a serious issue when you have people living with SIBO for 10, 15, 20 years. It goes from being a gut problem to being a organ failure problem. And that's what I would say conventional medicine might be missing the ball on, that they are treating SIBO as a lifetime chronic illness, when in fact it needs to be addressed and resolved, and it should not come back. We talked about this before the beginning of the video. The recurrence rate for SIBO is 40%, 40 to 60%. That is very high. And that's why it is a lifestyle issue. And that's why we need to look at root cause reasons for why people have it, and they keep having it, and it keeps coming back. It's related to issues like stress, sleep, diet, relationships, relationship with yourself, dealing with trauma. It's all related to why the gut starts to not function properly. The food is a part of it. We've got to look holistically. Conventional medicine doesn't tend to be very holistic. It tends to be very piecemeal. It tends to break the body up into different parts. It tends to focus on one part of the body and address symptoms in one part of the body, instead of looking at root causes, so we can not only address one symptom, but address a whole multitude of symptoms and most importantly, keep the condition from coming back.
Like you mentioned, I'm looking on Google, and like you mentioned, about 40, 50%. But this is where you come in. Ways to lower the risk of relapse: space out meals, wait 4 to 5 hours between meals, and avoid late night snacking. Essentially, this is saying intermittent fasting.
So intermittent fasting is not quite the same as spacing out meals, although.
Okay, let's break them down one by one. Yeah. What's space out meals?
Spacing out meals is basically what it says. It's like the digestive system, believe it or not, needs 4 hours between every meal for the migrating motor complex. It's called the migrating motor complex, MMC. It is a function in our digestive system, which between meals, it goes in and it sweeps out portions of our digestive system to ensure that any extra like leftover food particles are not hanging around. The ultimate goal of the migrating motor complex is to keep stuff moving. The goal of our digestive system, a healthy digestive system, is in movement. Mm-hmm. Even when there's no food there, there's movement. That's why we need those 4-hour breaks to have it would be the equivalent of a street cleaner. Come in and just do the little sweeping. That's what we have. We have in a society where we're told to snap 24 hours a day. That does not align with our biology. It does not align with how we need to be. So that's what they're talking about, spacing out meals. When you're talking about, and now spacing out meals could kind of dovetail and be integrated with intermittent fasting, because you could, let's say you have a meal at 8 o'clock, you have a meal at 12 o'clock, you have a meal at 4 o'clock, and then you don't eat anymore after 4 o'clock. After 4 o'clock, you just go to bed at 10 o'clock, and then you sleep for 8 hours. So that period from 4 p.m. until the next day when you eat a meal, that's intermittent fasting. So I feel like spacing out your meals dovetails and correlates very nicely with intermittent fasting. And it's all about giving the gut rest from having to digest solid food during the course of your day.
So here's my next question with the second one. It says use prokinetics, and then it gives a natural motility agent. My question for you is, wouldn't the liquid diet be the motility agent? If not, can you explain why?
So the liquid diet is only for a few weeks.
Okay.
So it's a temporary, very concentrated treatment protocol. The use of prokinetics would be the thing that is often recommended that people do after the liquid diet, after the elemental diet, to keep their gut health in good shape after they've had that, rest. The gut has had that rest. It's allowed to heal. The healing of that one cell lining, that we talk about with leaky gut, helping heal the leaky gut. The use of prokinetics can help with that process because, again, it keeps stuff moving. We want our digestive systems to be moving. And when I say moving, I'm not talking about digesting food all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about the migrating motor complex. Those 4-hour breaks between digesting food, the migrating motor complex is keeping the digestive system moving as well. So it's all about spacing out the intake of solid food, having those breaks between meals so that that movement can continue, so that the food is being fully eliminated as waste on a consistent basis. So you don't have backups, you don't have constipation. SIBO develops when you have low gut movement, low gut motility. That's when SIBO grows. When the food is staying in the digestive system too long, the bacteria can start to overgrow and feed off of it. We don't want that. That's the value of the prokinetics.
It's interesting because I do intermittent fasting. My father does as well. He's in his 70s. I think I started doing intermittent fasting, I think maybe 2-3 years ago. And it's different being on the West Coast. I mean, I'm fighting it because obviously I'm so used to being on the East Coast where it's already, 1:45 and I haven't eaten anything today.
Yeah.
But I still try to abide by at least 11 on the West Coast. I try not to eat, or 10, at least 10, which is about 1 o'clock.
Yes.
And then I am starting to eat earlier too, again, because I'm still getting used to the time zone change. And I'm starting to eat at 6 or even sometimes 4:30 or 5, and then go to bed around 8, maybe later, but try to stop eating at 8. So I definitely apply that. The final one is, again, this is at the core of what you do, and that's treating the root cause.
Right.
Managing chronic conditions or addressing structural blockages contributing to slow digestion. So my final question for you regarding SIBO is, how do you get to the root cause regarding SIBO?
The way you get to the root cause is you talk to the person, you learn about their lifestyle, you learn about their daily habits, you learn about their history, you learn about the things that are causing them stress today, whether it's their relationships, their work, whatever it is. And then you tackle those things. You help the person navigate their relationships better so they're not either in a toxic relationship or they feel like they are overburdened with caregiving duties and they can't say no. An inability to say no is putting you on the road to SIBO. I didn't try to make that rhyme, but it did. Dealing with helping people navigate their lives better, helping create boundaries in their relationships, helping them say no to being overburdened, helping them reduce their people-pleasing tendencies, helping them love themselves more. Cultivating self-love and self-care goes a long way to keeping SIBO from coming back. Because if you care about yourself, your health, you have boundaries, you're going to go to bed earlier. We talk about sleep. We talk about the impact that poor sleep has on gut functioning. We talk about the diet, obviously. We talk about movement. We talk about life purpose. If you're doing a job you hate, day in and day out, year after year, it's going to affect your body. It's going to affect your gut. You're going to have stress. You're just going to have stress because you're not happy. These are the core foundational health principles that I engage with clients to get them, work with them at a root cause level. because these are the lifestyle and behavioral and relational elements that contribute to chronic diseases like SIBO. So I'm all about, let's go there. Let's talk about your diet. Let's talk about your movement. Let's talk about your relationships, including the relationship with yourself. Let's talk about your life purpose. Maybe you need to go back to school. Maybe you need to do something that brings you joy, because the body responds to joy. The body, just like this body responds to stress. And so working with people on their lives to help them be in a state where they are experiencing low levels of stress, high levels of joy, high levels of personal and workplace satisfaction, that is what will keep SIBO away.
Sorry, I have so many tabs. Finally, where can people find you?
People can find me on my website, which is robusthealthadvocacy.com. And I'm available. You can look me up I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn. I am also available. You can call me. My phone number is 240-997-3995. I'm going to be doing a lot more appearances, a lot more panels. Thanks to you, Samuel, and other people are inviting me more and more to speak about this topic, as well as other really important, timely topics affecting people. Hit me up on the socials. You can call me, email me, robusthealth78@gmail.com. I am available, and I do free consults. So always willing to talk to people about what's going on with their health, what's going on with their life. How can we help you live more robustly? Because we were made to live a robust life.
So you can also find Angela at decentmed.org/functional medicine, and you can connect with her there. This video will be on her SIBO page, which you can find at, one second, let me find it. Because I thought it was just /SIBO, but it's not. No, it is decentmed.org/how-to-treat SIBO naturally. All spread out, and I'll put that.
So is that decentmed.org/?
Yeah, just like this. decentmed.org/how-to-treat-SIBO-naturally. And here's the page. So as you see, her video will be there. Are you seeking how to treat SIBO naturally? This is all coming from Angela. She also touches on personal health advocacy on the page as well, and her 5-day plan. And finally, she has a case study. And in this case study, she goes over a 74-year-old woman that had multiple chronic health issues, including SIBO. And she did a health consultation with her, including an extensive health questionnaire. She coordinated care with a nutritionist and a SIBO specialist before coaching. The client successfully completed the protocol, which resulted in the following health benefits: resolved the fecal incontinence, which we talked about today. Blood pressure stabilized to the point where she no longer needs to take high blood pressure medication, and inflammation significantly decreased to where client could stop wearing compression socks/hose after 6 years. Angela supported the client in follow-up care to research the most affordable probiotics and nutritional supplements recommended by her practitioners. In addition, she provided somatic exercise training to the client, which will be available on the website soon. to help her release a lifetime of stress and trauma. That will be available at decentmed.org/trauma. Finally, Angela identified a pelvic floor specialist close to the client's home and discussed how taking vaginal estrogen could improve her pelvic floor functioning. The client had recently been diagnosed with a UTI, but her conventional doctor did not recommend treatment. Angela stressed to the client that she should be treated and research antibiotic-free treatment methods. She also suggested the client consider taking vaginal estrogen to improve pelvic floor functioning and prevent future UTIs. So what I take from this is that Angela not only addressed the SIBO, but got to the root cause of the client's stress and trauma, as well as their UTI. And I think that's what separates holistic providers like Angela from traditional medicine, is that she gets to the root cause of addressing disease. So everyone, you can find this page at decentmed.org/how-to-treat-SIBO-naturally. And I will put the link in the comments. Thank you so much for joining us for this DecentMed Showcase, Resolving SIBO with Angela Forrest. Angela will be speaking at our next summit, Addressing Diabetes, on August 27th. This will be at 12 p.m. CST. Stay tuned, and thank you for joining us, and everyone have a great rest of their day.